If you are asked which one of these lines, A, B, or C, matches the standard line without a label, you'd think it's a pretty easy answer. But what if you were asked in a group setting, where everyone else gave their answer before you did, and you had to listen to what they had to say first before giving your own opinion? Would your answer still be the same, or would you change it to suit what everyone else has been saying before you? This is exactly what Asch tried to figure out in his study of conformity, which is one of the main studies of the topic social influence in the AQA A-level psychology spec. Now, first of all, like with any study, we're starting off with an aim, which was to investigate whether people conform in unambiguous situations. When carrying out the study, Asch essentially asked 123 undergraduate volunteers which line A, B, or C matched the standard. The group involved 6 to 8 people, with the rest of the people in the group being Confederates, meaning that they knew the purpose of the study and they were given specific instructions to answer differently than to what the obvious correct answer would be. The participant was usually the second last person to answer in the group, meaning that they would hear majority of the group's answers before giving their own opinion on which line matched the standard. The results that Ash found were quite surprising, with out of the 12 of 18 critical trials, 36.8% conformed, and in total of all the studies and trials that he did, 75% conformed at least once. This essentially means that people do conform in unambiguous situations, so even if they know what the correct answer is, if they have heard everyone else in the group give a different answer, then they will change their answer to match what they have heard. This has been concluded to be due to NSI, which we covered in an earlier video, so do go look at that if you haven't seen it yet. But it's essentially when you conform or change your behavior or opinion due to your need to be liked by the rest of the group and be accepted in a social setting. Ash also conducted a bunch of different studies with different variations of the same study that he did originally to find out whether or not the results would stay the same. One of the first things that he did was change the task difficulty, and he did this by making the lines a lot more similar in length. This essentially makes it harder to judge which one of the lines A, B, or C actually match the standard. And what he found was that conformity increased even further due to ISI or informational social influence, which, again, like we covered in the earlier video, is conforming or changing your behavior due to your need to be right. The task was intellectually a lot more difficult, and due to people's need to be right, they would go along with the rest of the group because they didn't want to give the wrong answer. He also did another variation with unanimity, which is essentially where he put in a dissenter with the rest of the group who disagreed with what everyone else had to say. Even if they didn't give the same answer as the participant, this shows that conformity dropped to 5%, which means that in a group of people, even if only one person disagrees with the rest of the group, it makes it a lot easier for the participant to resist conformity and give a genuine, honest answer about how they actually feel. And finally, he changed the group size. He tried different group sizes of participants to see how it would affect conformity and found that the optimum number of people to have conformity affect one's answer is 3. And in this scenario, conformity increased from 12.8% to around 32%, which shows a curvilinear relationship. It doesn't really increase much beyond a group of 3, which means that 3 is the optimal number if you want your participants' answer to be affected by conformity. It's useful to memorize all of these different variations to add in your AO1. It essentially guarantees you more marks for this section, so I highly recommend that you learn this because it's a really good extra bit of detail to add in your answer when you're writing a long answer essay question. Now we're going to be moving on to the AO3 or the evaluations, where we'll be looking at different strengths and weaknesses of Asch's study and how that affects what we know about conformity and the conclusions that we have reached as a psychological society. One of the first positive things that we can say about Asch's study is that it took place in a lab setting. This essentially means that Asch was able to easily control extraneous variables, for example, any loud noises or distractions that could have affected the concentration of the participant, causing them to give a different answer. You don't have to use that specific example for an extraneous variable, but do make sure that you give any example that's valid when you're describing how using a lab setting eliminates extraneous variables, because simply saying that it controls the setting isn't enough. You do need to give an example, and avoiding distractions or loud noises can easily be one of them. This essentially makes it easy to be more confident that only the behavior of the rest of the group affected how the participant answered the question. And it therefore means that the study has a lot more validity because we're making sure that we are actually testing the effect of what everyone else is saying on the participant's answer and how conformity affects the participant. However, what we do know is that by using a lab study, it automatically makes it an artificial task, meaning that it's no longer similar to real life, and therefore it doesn't show how conformity actually works in a real life setting, because in real life, we're not usually sitting in a bunch of people and trying to guess which line matches a standard line A, B, or C. Usually, we have more realistic scenarios, like, for example, if everyone else says that they like a specific movie, you're more likely to say the same thing to avoid being the odd one out. Therefore, Asch's study lacks mundane realism and therefore also has low internal validity because it doesn't really tell us much about how conformity works in a real life setting. Another weakness that you could add is that Asch uses a fairly unrepresentative sample in his study. So, if you remember from AO1, he used 123 undergraduate American males. Therefore, his study doesn't really explore how conformity works within a group of women or in a mixed group of men and women, and it also doesn't really explore how conformity works in different cultures or countries. Therefore, you could say that his results in the study are ethnocentric and androcentric because it isn't really generalizable to a wider population. We can't automatically assume that just because a bunch of American males answered or acted in a specific way, that women or people from different cultures, such as Asia or Africa, would respond in the same way either. So, therefore, more studies would need to take place with different groups of people in order to make sure that conformity works in the same way across people of different genders and cultures. Now, remember, while these videos are a really great way to help you improve your understanding and give you a bite sized summary on the topic, I've also created really detailed revision notes and summaries that are going to help you save time and secure those A's and A stars. I've linked all of them in my website. The link is in the description below. It includes revision notes and summaries, sample essays that have scored top marks, with bonus evaluations that are going to help you stay ahead and get you the grades that you deserve. I also tutor professionally if you need extra support, and I'm also offering my first few lessons free to see whether or not it works for you. All my lessons are absolutely personalized to your needs and what you need to work on. So if that's something that you'd be interested in, please do give that a look. I also have my newsletter linked in the description below, where every week I send out a newsletter that will basically give you extra free tips on how to do well in the exams, how to answer with good exam technique, and make sure that you're not losing marks not because you know the content, but because you haven't answered the question in the way that the examiners are looking for. So, if you are interested in any of those, please do check the links in the description below. I'm offering loads of things for free, and if you're interested further, there are also paid services that I can offer. Well, guys, that pretty much sums up all of the information that I've provided in the video for you today. I hope you found it super useful. If there's any feedback or anything that you'd like to see in future videos, do let me know down in the comments below. It's really helpful to see what you guys could benefit from, and so I can make more videos about it in the future to help you get the grades that you deserve. If this video has helped you anyway, it would be really helpful if you could like and subscribe and comment down, as I said below, what you liked about the video, what you didn't like, what we could improve on. It really helps. I hope you have a good day. See you later.